Welcome back, everyone, to Sip and Talk. You know, it feels like every single time we sit down here, the market's just rocketed up again with this whole AI thing.
It really has. The energy is just, it's palpable, isn't it? Pushing everything higher seems like every week. But all that energy, it definitely brings a familiar feeling too, right? Bit of anxiety, maybe.
Oh, totally. I mean, just yesterday, my neighbor stopped me, you know the one, right? Only talks markets when he thinks the sky is falling.
Uh-huh.
And he's asking me if he should sell everything because of the AI bubble. And honestly, that felt like the perfect sign.
Huh. The classic reverse shoeshine theory. Love it.
Exactly. Like maybe if he's worried, the real peak is still, way off. The fear is definitely out there, but the money, it's still pouring in.
Yeah, it's such a critical point right now. And to really get past just the fear, we need to look at what's actually happening. So I think today our goal is to really compare this AI frenzy, especially with big tech spending so much, against the dot-com era. And then maybe broaden out, look at the global picture, especially, the instability potentially coming out of China.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this because the big question, the one everyone's asking, is this real? Is it fundamentals? Or is it just, speculation gone wild? I mean, the numbers are staggering. Companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, Meta, they're talking about spending, $320 billion on AI infrastructure just in 2025? That kind of number just screams bubble, right?
It does sound enormous, absolutely. But a lot of experts, people at places like Allianz, they're framing it differently. Less bubble, more, maybe a boom underpinned by fundamentals. And the key difference, the thing that really separates today from the late 90s, it comes down to cash flow.
Okay, cash flow. Give us the breakdown. What makes it so different?
Well, back in the dot-com days, you remember a lot of those tech companies were running on fumes, right? Junk bonds, weird financing, basically debt and dreams.
Right. Hype.
Exactly. Today, though, the tech sector's free cash flow margins are just incredibly strong. We're talking 11% to 15% higher than the rest of the S&P 500.
Yeah.
So when you hear analysts estimate like $1.6 trillion globally on hardware, chips, and stuff, a huge chunk of that isn't debt. It's coming from internal cash flow generated by giants like Microsoft, Meta.
Ah, okay. So they're basically funding this massive build-out themselves, not relying on banks or risky loans. But doesn't that just sort of shift the risk onto their shareholders?
It definitely shifts the risk profile, yes. But it also makes the whole structure way more resilient than what we saw in the 90s. And you can see that resilience even in the valuations, relatively speaking. Dot-com peak. Tech sector was valued at like 2.4 times the S&P 500. Now, it's closer to 1.5 times.
Still high, but not as stratospheric.
Right. And while the overall S&P forward PE ratio is higher now, maybe around 28 compared to 25 back then, the crucial point is the profit and cash flow supporting that multiple. It's just exponentially stronger today.
That's a really important difference. So this spending isn't just market fluff. It's actually like driving the real economy.
Exactly. This isn't just noise in the stock market. It's showing up directly in growth numbers. Take Q2 2025. AI capital spending added about 1.1 percentage points to GDP growth.
Wow.
Yeah. And just for context, that's nearly half of the total growth for the quarter. It actually outpaced consumer spending, which only added about half a point.
Okay, that's huge. Half the growth coming from AI investment. Yeah. But what happens if that spending slows down? How shaky does that make the economy?
Well, that's the big if, isn't it? That's the catch. The growth is real now. But if the long-term returns from all this AI investment don't quite match the hype, analysts are worried it could become this capital black hole.
Capital black hole. Sounds ominous. Like a powerful train, but maybe the track's just end-to-end.
Sort of, yeah. Powerful momentum, but uncertain destination.
Speaking of direction, let's look at the company steering this train. OpenAI seems to be playing, like, the kingmaker role.
They really do. Their strategy is quite unique, especially how they structure partnerships. They're using these complex tools, stock warrants specifically. Sometimes people call it circular financing. Basically, it's a way to boost and validate their key partners.
Right, like the huge AMD deal. That really got everyone talking.
Absolutely. October 2025, AMD lands this massive contract, supplying 6 gigawatts of their Instinct GPUs starting late 2026. Huge deal on its own. But the kicker was the warrant. AMD gave OpenAI warrants to buy up to 160 million shares for 1 cent per share.
1 cent. Seriously. That's basically gifting them a potential 10% stake in AMD.
Pretty much. It's this massive vote of confidence. Tells the market AMD isn't just the budget NVIDIA alternative anymore.
Yeah, it signals they're a real contender, and the market reacted instantly. Right?
Oh, yeah. AMD stock jumped 24% in one day. Analysts took it as confirmation. Now they're talking about AMD maybe grabbing like 30% market share eventually.
Wow. And this whole wave, it's lifting other boats too, right? Like memory companies. Micron seems to be having a moment.
Micron is definitely riding the AI supercycle. They got a big upgrade recently. Why? Because building all these AI servers needs tons of memory. DRAM, NAND, and we're seeing projections for DDR5 server memory prices to jump. Q4 this year, Q1 next year. Looks like a solid 12 months of strong momentum for them.
And their CEO was pretty vocal about their position too, wasn't he?
He was, Sanjay Mehrotra. He made a point of emphasizing that Micron is the only US-based memory maker really positioned to catch this wave, a domestic advantage.
Interesting. But okay, all this building, all these chips, all these servers, it needs power. A lot of power.
That's the looming infrastructure challenge. The power requirements are just staggering. Projections suggest these AI data centers could eventually consume 10% of total U.S. electricity.
10%? Wow. That's not just a challenge. That sounds like a potential energy crisis waiting to happen.
It's a serious, serious bottleneck brewing in the background. Unavoidable, really.
Yeah, that 10% figure is kind of terrifying for the grid, but it also brings up this weird contradiction, doesn't it? We're pouring all this money, all this energy into AI, but are we seeing the payoff yet on, like, the factory floor? Which leads to that productivity paradox idea.
Yes. Robert Sala's classic line, right? You can see the computer age everywhere but in the productivity statistics. And AI, right now, fits that perfectly.
So if AI is supposedly this revolutionary thing, why aren't productivity numbers just shooting up immediately? What's the holdup?
It seems to be this systemic lag. We actually have data showing manufacturing firms adopting AI saw productivity dip initially, like a short-term decline of about 1.33 percentage points.
It went down.
Initially, yeah. It's like historical patterns repeating. Big general-purpose technologies like the internet back then or AI now, they need more than just the tech itself. You need those complementary innovations, reorganizing how you work, retraining people, changing business models entirely. It might take, 4 or 5 years before we see the real productivity gains show up in the stats, similar to how things played out with the internet in the 90s.
Okay, that makes sense. Like having the fastest car doesn't help if the roads are still dirt tracks. You need the whole system to adapt. All right, let's zoom out a bit. Beyond the U.S. tech scene, let's talk geopolitics specifically. China, the big elephant in the global economic room.
Right. China's situation is definitely creating ripples everywhere. And you hear critics pointing to this core issue, something they're calling Xi-flation.
Xi-flation. Okay, unpack that. What's the idea there? Sounds like linking economic problems to specific policies.
Well, the argument from critics is that the current leadership in Beijing prioritizes regime stability and ideological goals, perhaps, over traditional economic growth. And this focus, they argue, has led to some policy choices, resulting in things like deflation, 6 straight quarters of falling prices, which is really tough economically. Plus, you've got very high debt, over 270% debt to GDP, and that really concerning youth unemployment number still above 20%.
And some of those policy choices are pretty visible, like their big industrial plans.
Yeah, the heavy reliance on industrial policy, things like Made in China 2025, critics say it's led to massive overcapacity. I mean, China exporting 70% of the world's EVs. Yeah. That floods markets. And at the same time, there's been a noticeable squeeze on the private sector, which is usually the engine for innovation. Private firms' share in listed companies has fallen quite a bit, from maybe 55% down to around 33%.
But despite all these economic headwinds, China's still pushing hard on AI, right?
Yeah.
Are they actually leading in some areas?
Oh, absolutely. They are definitely leading in AI applications. Even if their big AI models are maybe, 3-6 months behind the US ones, China holds something like 70% of global AI patents. Their focus seems to be heavily on automating core stuff, ports, manufacturing, things that could boost their long-term productivity significantly. So, yeah, they could still challenge U.S. dominance down the line, even with the current economic struggles.
Okay, interesting. So let's bring this back home then to the U.S. economy, because we're hearing warnings here too, right? Ken Griffin from Citadel had some pretty strong words.
He did. He warned the U.S. economy is on a kind of sugar high. His point is we're using financial stimulus tools like big deficit spending that you'd normally use in a deep recession, but we're doing it when unemployment is super low, like 4.3%. He argues this masks underlying risks like huge debt and persistent inflation.
And he pointed to gold as a major warning sign, didn't he?
Right. Yeah, that was a big one. Gold surging to $4,000 an ounce, up 50% just in 2025. Griffin called that very worrying. He sees it as a clear signal of de-dollarization. Basically, global central banks investors, they're looking for alternatives because they're concerned that major central banks are maybe ignoring sticky inflation, which is still expected around 3.3%.
So soaring gold is like a global vote of no confidence in traditional currencies, or at least a hedge against instability.
It certainly signals deep systemic concern, and that instability isn't just global, it's reflected inside the U.S. too. Ray Dalio has talked about the split economy. You got the top 1% largely benefiting from AI and tech booms, flush with cash, pushing asset prices up. But then the bottom 60%, they're facing stagnant wages, job pressures. It's a very divided picture.
Okay, so summing up, it's complicated. We have this AI boom that seems maybe more fundamentally sound than the dot-com one, built on real cash flow, real GDP impact.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it comes with huge risks. That capital black hole idea, the massive energy drain, plus this shaky global backdrop with China's issues and the U.S. sugar high.
Yeah.
And internal divisions.
That really captures the dual reality we're facing. Stronger foundations, perhaps, but immense risks and volatility all around.
So maybe here's the thought to leave everyone with today, something to chew on. We talked about the U.S. grappling with that productivity paradox, right? Pouring money into AI, but waiting years for the payoff in labor efficiency because systems need to change.
Yeah.
Then you contrast that with China pushing high-tech industrial policy almost regardless of the short-term economic cost, aiming for long-term automation dominance.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, which approach ultimately wins the biggest slice of that massive $15.7 trillion global GDP boost predicted from AI by 2030? Is it the system waiting for organic complementary innovation, or the one trying to force adoption through state direction? That feels like the real race underneath it all.
That is a critical question. It's definitely a complex world out there, and it really highlights the need for everyone listening to consider all these angles, think independently.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this discussion here on Sip and Talk. Please do subscribe wherever you get your audio.
And hey, a quick shout out to our friend Mickey. We were just talking to him, and guess what? He said our encouragement worked. He's finally getting down to editing those Europe trip vlogs for his YouTube channel, Mickytolife.
Awesome. Yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing that first episode drop. Check him out.
Yeah, do check him out. And please, keep sending us your ideas. We love hearing from you about topics you want us to tackle next.
Definitely. Until next time, we'll see you soon.